So I work with the violent and sexual violent offenders.
What is it that makes a father want to sexually assault his daughter?
How do you overcome the stigma of working with what society may consider unredeemable?
This offender is going to be a member of society next time.
How are you trying to solve the problem? Is it teaching them ways to suppress the sexual urge or what? What's the first thing you think about when you think about prison?
Bars and bars.
Yeah, so I think like today we actually have a very exciting episode. We're going to talk about a portion of prison, right, that people don't usually see and they don't usually talk about, but there's actually a lot of talking happening there. So today we have with us a psychologist from the Singapore Prison Service. She's been working in the Community Corrections Command and Clinical Psychology Unit for a decade. So please welcome to the show, Marlene Chua. Woo! Sorry, are you Dr. Marlene Chua?
No, I'm not a doctor.
When do you get a doctor?
I don't need a PhD to be a psychologist.
Oh, okay.
So, in today's episode, we are going to cover the rehabilitation and reform. What does that look like inside prisons? The mental health of inmates and what it's like to work in the SPS and, the broader psychology of like crime and second chances. Yeah, so with that, the first question we have, right, is what is the difference between your work and the work of a psychologist outside of prison?
I think the biggest difference is that the clients are mandatory. Sometimes they don't want to come, but they have to come, right? So when I'm outside, then it's voluntary. You go and see a psychologist because you want some help.
Yeah.
The second one is really our goal is to reduce the offending behavior. When I'm outside, sometimes people come in to manage their mood, for example. But the priority is not the offending behavior.
What are the most common offences that you usually work with?
So I work with the violent and sexual violent offenders. Yeah, so those are the two main groups. Our drug offenders are taken care of by our specialists.
There are a few like recent cases that I think were quite big in the news, especially in Malaysia. There was recently a case of stabbing that allegedly like was out of nowhere. I think there was a bit of like rumors flying around, like it was because of like he was rejected by this girl, then he angry, then he go stab her. The thing is that there was quite a big conversation with regards to mental health, and I think for a lot of cases nowadays, people do bring up that topic. So if say for example this person has been convicted and then they move into prison, right, and then what would your role be in looking after this person, and then what does that journey look like?
With that case, when the case comes in, we will then look at what are the factors leading the person to commit offense. So it's not just in that moment, but before that, were there situations in the family, stresses that has caused the person to be more vulnerable to stress? I would usually ask the details and what are the little steps. I would go into each step of how he or she started to have that thought of wanting to offend. Or could it be out of impulse, or it was because he had taken some substances. So it really depends.
I really like that you mentioned that because it really feels like the dream.
Oh my god, speaking of dreams, right, yesterday I had the weirdest dream. So it felt so real. So yesterday I was like scrolling my phone and then I was...
So there's a hero that basically saves the day without you realizing.
Yeah, so realistic.
Actually quite realistic. This generation of Singtel broadband, they do a lot of work behind the scenes and they're always there. Just like comprehensive security that safeguard your network in real time so that threats never get close. Or like automatic upgrades that troubleshoots and optimizes your network quietly in the background so you don't have to lift a finger. Or like Eco Wi-Fi that pauses unused Wi-Fi bands while you sleep so you can save energy.
Wow, that means my hero does exist. Thank you, Singtel Broadband.
Back to the episode.
I would usually ask the details and what are the little steps. I would go into each step of how he or she started to have that thought of wanting to offend. Or could it be out of impulse, or it was because he had taken some substances. So it really depends. For example, if inmate is in for gang-related violence, right? And then I'll try to understand, hey, how come you join a gang? Then maybe the inmate may say, oh, I'm in because when I was young, my parents weren't really there to supervise me. I really wanted friendship.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we slowly uncover, oh, actually relationships are really important for you.
Friends that slash together.
Okay.
And so when we understand that, hey, that's the need that he wants, then we would talk about, hey, are there other pro-social alternatives?
So the end goal is essentially to see what made them offend in the first place and then see how to prevent that from happening again.
Yes, because if I know how it started, then I know how to target the things that I need to target in my intervention with them.
Are you trying to be like their friend first?
Of
like
course.
in the TV show, all that I see like they like try to, you don't have to be afraid of me, that kind of thing.
We are friends with boundaries. Not friends, but I mean, we work together. We also explain to the inmates that like actually for us to help you, then you need to let us know what's really going on in your life. If not, this cycle of offending may repeat again. So that's how I start to build that rapport.
And usually in the first meeting, are most of them very closed off to this? Do they even understand what it is that you are trying to help them do?
I think it depends. Some people are open to it. Some people are happy to talk to someone because they don't really get a lot of time to talk to external people. But most times they're cooperative, I feel. There are, of course, people who rejects intervention or like assessment. I guess even it's not just with inmates, with anyone else, you take time to build that rapport. So I wouldn't rush the process. I would just get to talk to the person, maybe ask how are you adjusting to prison? How is it like for you? But I also am very clear of my intention because I think a lot of our inmates, they come in with the mindset that like, people are not going to be transparent with their information, right? So I'll come in and say, hey, I'm here to do an assessment. It's really to find out what kind of counseling programs are suitable for you. And then later on, we move on to the intervention phase where we will provide programs, group programs or individual programs for them to target these risk areas.
Are you also involved in like their prison sentence ends tomorrow? Then do they still continue to see you or what happens?
So we have different branches in prisons. We also have aftercare colleagues who work in the community. Yeah, because it's too tiring to work through from in-care to aftercare. No, I'm kidding. But we also want them to experience different specialists so they have different points of view. Right. So that we have colleagues in the aftercare who will support them.
How many inmates do you see on a day-to-day basis?
Not so much day-to-day, but maybe in a week, I would see 3 to 4.
Oh.
Yeah. Some prisons, we work with the risk, needs and responsibility model, R&R. So actually, depending on the type of offences you come in, what's your risk of offending, the people who are of higher risk are the ones that we would see first.
What is an example of higher risk?
So for example, if you've been committing the same offence for a long time, 5 years, but you're not caught, right? Or you've been committing different types of offence, right? Then these are people we would consider maybe higher risk. They require more intervention and earlier intervention.
Right. But you work exclusively with inmates lah.
Yes.
Okay.
We also work with officers, providing trainings, helping them to shape the environment because they're very important as well.
And I think something that you mentioned earlier that would be very interesting for us to get into is that the fact that you said you will work with violent and sexual violence inmates, right? First of all, why?
Do you get
Are you assigned that or did you...
So in prisons, the psychologists work with this bunch of offenders. So it's not a choice, but I chose to work in prisons because I wanted psychology to be accessible to people, even if you don't have the resources to afford it. But it's really true.
Which is great.
No, and I think a part of that is also how do you overcome the stigma of working with what society may consider unredeemable as a person before you're even a psychologist? How do you overcome that barrier? Or do you even now don't have the barrier at all? Fair enough.
I mean, if I looked at their history of offences, definitely I have some preconceived assumptions about that person. But what helps me is that I'm reminded this person is also a father or also a son. So aside from the offending, I also want to look at different parts of this person and not just the offending behavior. I think that helps me to feel like I'm not just working with the offender, but also that this offender is going to be a member of society next time. He's not going to be in prison forever. He's going to go out, and he's going to interact with people. Yeah.
Can I ask a hypothetical question, right? Like, what is it that makes a father want to sexually assault his daughter?
Let's go!
Into the analysis.
Let's figure it out.
Maybe not so, maybe tone down on the excitement.
What are some reasons you think? I mean, I can share later on. Yeah,
Okay.
They have been sexually assaulted themselves, right?
They could be they have some very weird fetish, I think. Then some things just can't be explained, I think.
So we have this category of disorder called paraphilia, and pedophilia is one of them. So I mean, I think what they're saying is your maybe sexual urges and impulses have impacted your functioning, and that's why it's classified as a disorder.
What if a guy goes, hey, I find myself being so attracted to little kids, so I know it's a problem. He goes and seeks help for it, before he commits any sort of crime or hurts anybody, do we still consider that person, he's probably going to offend at some point?
Oh, that means it's not a disorder yet. It's not affecting your function, I think.
Yeah, functioning could be like in terms of relationships. Like maybe I have all these sexual preoccupations and then I'm starting to maybe watch child porn or maybe looked at kids in the toilet, that kind of thing, that it has translated into behaviors and it's affecting, for example, instead of going to work every day, I'm spending a lot of time online looking up such images.
It's affecting outside schools.
Then based on your example, where does the understanding come from? Like just because they are a father, then you understand why they empathize with why they go into a children's bathroom?
I think she was describing something different.
Okay, yeah.
So what's the real answer?
The answer is it depends on a multitude of factors. Right. I mean, it could be on 3 levels. It can be in terms of thinking. There's certain beliefs about, maybe they believe that children are also mature enough as sexual partners. That could be a very unhelpful belief, but they develop this belief.
Okay.
Right? Or it could be in terms of emotions. They don't really know, they feel like they have a sexual urge, but they don't really know how to regulate. They just feel like, if I have an urge, I have to act on it. And then it can be in terms of behavior. Some people might have some fixations. When I think about something, I feel like I need to do it. I cannot control. They believe that they don't have control over it. So there's a multitude of factors. What you mentioned about like childhood experiences could be a contributor to.
Okay.
So with an inmate who has abused their child sexually, how are you trying to solve the problem? Is it teaching them ways to suppress the sexual urge or what?
Most times in my observation, there is some intimacy deficits. So there could be, maybe I have clients who really want to make friends, but they don't know how to make friends. And then, or they want to be in a romantic relationships, but they don't have that capacity to build physical, emotional intimacy. So then I would talk to them about these factors. Yeah.
For the same type of offense, is there a different treatment framework for male versus female offenders?
We don't have that many female sexual offenders. Yeah, but I would say that the general frameworks are the same. We work with the thinking, regulating feelings, and then looking at tracking their behaviors to see how we can choose more healthier alternatives. With females, we tend to look at, because we have gender responsive programs that are catered to the females, we look more into like their relationships with people. Because for a lot of females, those are very important. Yeah, so we would talk more about how these relationships could be a factor that leads to offending.
Are you saying that most of the crimes committed by women are motivated by relationships?
A lot of them, not most, but
okay.
a
A
big
lot of them
part
are.
of them. Yeah.
Is the lower rates of female offences down to a general lack of predisposition in women to commit those crimes?
It's not just females, but also males. They are very preoccupied with their roles in their life, right? As a mother, as a parent. And so that is already like a protective factor against offending. If you really want to be a good mother, then you cannot offend, because if you're in prison, you cannot take care of your kids. Yeah.
No, but I wonder if it is just a lack of reporting. Like, I think it is a lot more difficult for a man to go and report a case of sexual assault.
Yeah, it's not a crime, but because women are not able under the law to be considered to have raped a man, correct?
really?
Under the current legislation,
they
that's not
adjusted
possible.
the law to such that if there is a shape that you use for penetration, there's a specific law you can use for that, if I'm not wrong. No, but I'm just curious whether it is down to like
underreporting.
men are just not reporting it as much, and therefore there are less female sex offenders.
There's more stigma if a man reports that he got raped.
So it may not be, it can be emotional. In terms of law, I don't think that's something I can answer.
So based on your experience, what is the most common lie inmates tell themselves?
I think at the start, when they're first sentenced, there's often denial of the crime. That, I didn't mean for it to happen. A lot of them go through it. Also because there's a lot of shame and guilt when you have to acknowledge that, hey, I did something wrong. So in the initial phases, they could be thinking, hey, actually I didn't do it. Because they don't want to feel the pain and the guilt of having committed an offense.
When you're talking with these inmates, then like how do you know that they are trying to like suck up to you and give you good information to paint them in a better picture, or whether they are lying or real?
What I usually do is I will also ask for examples. So if you say that you're really a changed person, you can manage your feelings well, give me an example. We have certain assessment tools to see whether they are malingering. So we will ask them certain questions, and sometimes you look at whether their behaviors are congruent with like the non-verbal and content of what they're saying.
So actually the question don't matter, but the whether or not it matters more.
That's part of it.
It's like when you go interview, they don't care what you say.
But we also look at things across time lah. So not just one time point. If you wanna like try to fake, right, you can fake at one interview. But across time, if I look at you and it's not consistent, then that already tells me that, hey, this person might not be. You can check in with officers in terms of the behaviors in the cell. I can call up their family members, check in on like communications with them. So I may not know 100% of whether it's true or not, but I would have some idea.
And then is it part of your job to help an offender understand the severity of his crime? Like, are there people that don't understand how big of an impact that has been caused? I mean,
it's my job to help them understand the consequences and the impact on their victims. But sometimes, because of various reasons, it could be mental health, it could be that the inmate is in denial, they are not willing to understand or accept that they've done a lot of harm to the victims.
Or they justify their actions. But how do you counter that though?
We would try to help them understand that, like, hey, even though you said that this, for example, or you think that it's just like a stab. The guy didn't die, for example. He's minimizing. I just stabbed him, right? But then looked at what happened to the victim. And if the offender is not able to understand the consequence on the victim, then I'll start off with himself. So you did this behavior, you think it didn't affect the victim, but what about yourself? You got yourself into prison. Who's affected? Yeah, so we start from there and then can go back again and talk about the victim.
Has there ever been a case that you had to maybe like reject
$1 million?
Where?
Obviously I cannot tell you. But what I can tell you is that right now there are hundreds of silver coins hidden all over Singapore worth between $500 and $2,000 each. And from 3rd to 6th of December, there's going to be a singular gold coin worth 250k hidden as well.
Are you referring to hashtag Hunt the Mouse is back?
Exactly, they're back for their 6th year. So Hunt the Mouse returns this year in partnership with Revolut and introduces 2 brand new categories to help the game become more inclusive and intergenerational.
What does that mean?
It means that 400 silver coins of $500 each are being reserved exclusively for first-time players. So if you're a youth below 21 or a senior above 50, you can join this specific category because the idea is to get families, friends, neighbors to reconnect, have fun and discover new things because, we are just currently stuck in a fast-paced digital world.
You know what? That's actually quite nice. I've heard from previous participants that besides hunting for coins, the map also contains really cool places of interest in which players receive interesting bite-sized historical, cultural, or even futuristic facts about nearby locations that just adds layer of discovery to the exploration.
So you might be wondering, how do I get started? All you need to do is follow Squeaky on Instagram or Facebook or Telegram where they will upload clues, or you can check the real-time map on huntthemouse.squeaky.com. So over there you will see circles, right, which represent the areas where each coin is hidden, and these circles will actually shrink over time to help you find them. In fact, you might find a coin, I don't know, next to you.
Alright, I'm on it. So when does it start?
Oh, last month. It actually started on the 16th of October, but it will be running from now until 14th of December 2025, 2359. So what are you waiting for? Oh, by the way, this year they've also introduced an AI companion called Timmy that's designed to make the gameplay more interactive and accessible for players of all ages. Especially if you're a beginner, they'll give you helpful tips to help you throughout the hunt. So do make good use of it. Happy hunting.
Alright, back to the episode. Quickly, I have places to be.
I have places to be first.
Has there ever been a case that you had to maybe like reject?
I think we need to be aware of our boundaries and what is okay with that for us. So sometimes, so far I haven't rejected any cases, but I think if it's offenses against children, I think that can affect me a little bit more. So we have clinical supervision in prisons. We also talk to our supervisors about it. And then we discuss what about this case is triggering for me? How do I still maintain my professionalism when I go in and see the guy? Because I'm a human too. Naturally, these feelings will come up, right? And then I don't want the offender to think that I'm judging him as well.
In a very Singaporean fashion, I want to ask a question about how you guys, your whole team, what is a KPI for a prison psychologist? How do you evaluate your own work?
On the wall, they have the number of days without re-offense.
Is that one of those?
Like the construction.
The construction, the days without accident kind of sign.
We have our recidivism rate. The goal is really for them to not come back into prison. But we may not often know until they go out of prison. So, little indicators or progress markers that I look at is if the guy tells me, hey, I am more in control of my thoughts recently. I feel more in control. I know that I have this unhelpful thought, but I could have a helpful thought coming out. So that could be a progress indicator.
Coming with a black eye.
Then I need to challenge, hey, you're not congruent.
Is there a common factor that determines whether somebody will reoffend?
Aries.
Whoa, what's your beef with Aries?
Since that's already excited that reoffense.
Can you tell? Like,
Common
let's say this person is going to like really soon. You can tell that.
He said, see you next week when he
Bye, and I hope I never see you again. To the end, that guy at the end of his his term.
I don't say I hope that. I will just say, I hope for the best.
Why don't you say I hope I don't want to see you again?
I mean, I would say that, but I guess
Yeah, it would be so awkward if you say see you again.
and I don't want them to feel a sense of shame if they do come back again. Right?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's like you hate on your friend's partner. Then when they break up, you're like, finally. Then they get back together. Then that's awkward,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The amount of patience it takes to do this job, and the lack of judgment that you need to carry every day. Because if I was there and then I see something and then the guy reoffend, I'll be like, I told you so. I told you to go do this. I'm just I'm not that good a person.
all you need is a good poker face. You can think all these thoughts in your head, then you're like,
Yeah, he knows.
have you had to treat or talk to people that have ASPD?
We do have a percentage of them with antisocial personality disorder in prison.
The common term might be psycho/sociopath. But this is the correct term now.
How do you find out if someone is sociopath?
Like you have ASPD versus you are just manipulative. Like where's the line drawn?
I think it's not just manipulative. I mean, there are different factors, and manipulation is just one criteria. If you looked up the diagnostical manual, right, ASPD has quite a number of different factors. For example, early delinquency, lack of empathy.
They say they kill the animals. Is like real?
I mean, that's an example, but it doesn't mean that
Right.
ASPD is a diagnosis that we could have in inmates, because I mean, the nature of it is that they don't follow rules.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And the fact that they have offended would mean that they wouldn't adhere to certain rules.
Yeah. So how do you treat someone like that? Because then as in from what I hear, from what I understand, like you can't just stop being a psychopath, or like you can just stop being a sociopath, right? Then how?
We would first have to explore what motivates them. Yeah, what do they want? If it's not relationships, what motivates them in life? Yeah, and not all psychopaths would be offenders. Some of them are successful businessmen, businesswomen.
To be a CEO, you probably need to be a bit of a psychopath.
Okay, I have two questions. One is I think a bit more moral, so it's open to the floor, right? Like, do you think that if someone is born without empathy, can we really blame them for what they do? Because they simply don't understand it.
Which is a hallmark of sociopathy, right?
Isn't that then
Why can't it be
a sociopath?
taught?
They just cannot understand. I don't know. Maybe you can correct me. Like, can empathy be taught?
It can be learned, but there may be people who cannot
Grasp.
Yeah. They understand that, I need to have empathy, but I don't feel it.
But then the thing is, even if you don't understand it, you know the correct actions.
No, but I think a lot of it can also be very performative. So like you see the dog poor thing or whatever, right? Then you can go, so poor thing. But I think some people just say for the sake of saying, to show people that they have empathy, but in actuality they are using it for some other kind of like gain or whatever.
And therefore, maybe then my question to Marlene is that, so if say you are working with someone who has ASPD, is the goal to teach them about what you can and cannot do?
I would ask, is the person less of a human if he cannot develop empathy? And to me, the answer is no. I mean, even if he tries and he cannot have empathy, he's still a human. And he's in the system, for example, we still need to provide some support for that person. So if it's not about developing empathy, can we think about consequences? Yeah, going back to, you may not think about other people, but how about yourself? Is a prison life what you want for yourself?
I feel like the last 20 years of film have tried to teach us is giving the villains a good backstory, helping us to understand them and all that, right? Like, yeah, it's all of that, lor. Actually, what about your own safety? I mean, you talk about working with like inmates that have violent records or whatever, right? Yeah.
I've never felt unsafe in my work. My uniform colleagues looked after us really well. So in prisons, I mean, when I have a session, it's supervised. I mean, like on the camera, if there's anything that's happening, the officers can respond in time. I also have an alarm which I can press anytime.
Is there a person inside the room with you?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
You have an alarm that you're holding at all times?
Like a Stru alarm that I can clip onto my lanyard. And if there's something that happens, I can just click on it.
Right.
Interesting.
Wow.
And then there's somebody right outside the door or something like
And
that.
they were not right outside. They will come.
Is it one of those rooms with the two-way mirror?
We don't have to make
Just one table in the middle
then the light swinging, then you're like, why did you do it? Then you do that. Like, you, where's Rachel?
But actually, it's not actually super cushy. The room.
Yeah,
Is it like a therapy
Actually,
room?
what's the room look like? Where do you talk to these inmates? Can you build a picture for us?
we have an interview room where there's a table, aside from the walls are filled with motivational
like-
quotes.
So you have
And there's like microphones down there.
if you frame it as a podcast and then you could make them say stuff that you never thought they would ever divulge.
Is it recorded?
No, most sessions are not. But if we want to record them for a supervision, like for example, my supervisor wants to know what I'm doing in session, I'll ask them for permission.
Oh, okay.
That actually, we also get them to be peer facilitators or role models. So if you're like an inmate for a cohort, a group, right? For example, you've gone through counselling and then you are quite a good role model, we actually keep you as peer facilitators to role model for the next batch of
You mean
inmates.
beyond my sentence?
No.
You're such a good person. You want you to stay longer.
I said stays, I never say sentence.
No, we're not extending, but
Oh, you
we
asked
can.
them to
Yeah, would you like to be a
help
peer
lah. Okay, okay,
facilitator?
Do you also
Thoughts, my gosh.
do like group therapy, that kind?
We do both group interventions and individual interventions.
Really like the sit in the circle, hi, my name Jeff, that kind of thing.
Don't have the name.
Yeah. Is that how it works?
Yeah, we do have group sessions.
So what are things that y'all would talk about in like group sessions?
Yeah. What's
Because it's like
something
I
that-
wouldn't want to open up as much, or is it actually the opposite?
I think that in the group, then you might be able to see things or confront things that you might not be willing to confront in the individual sessions. Because for example, maybe I'm not ready to confront certain thoughts I have about my offenses, but the other person across the room talked about it. And then I realized, hey, you are also a mirror for me. Right. So I think groups can be very powerful.
Right.
Yeah. And if I can trust the group, I realized that, she was able to change. Why can't I? Maybe I can ask her for tips.
So then are there any particular, I guess, issues or things that you try to tackle that are actually more effective to tackle in a group type setting versus a individual setting?
Issues concerning identity, because that's something that is harder to talk about sometimes with one if it's in an individual session. But in a group setting, I think you hear more ideas. So issues about identity, issues about relationships. Then you get to practice it in the session also. So for example, we talked about boundaries. What's your boundary with her and with him? How different is it? How do you navigate that? So that's really powerful in a group.
I see. Does a group session ever get heated? Like I say something very vulnerable, then somebody laugh at me.
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, people get into disagreements and it's also a learning opportunity. I mean, if they haven't fought, then I can come in and say, hey, what's happening here? You were upset. What are you upset with him about? And then let's talk about it instead of fighting. But if the fight already happened, then we talk about it after that.
What would you say is the biggest motivator for someone to suddenly flip the switch like, okay, I want to change?
Changing for relationships, changing for a different outcome in life. I'm really sick and tired of prison life. Sometimes it takes life transitions or bigger events in life for people to realize that, hey, I really need to change my life. Yeah, so it could be loss of family members, be loss of opportunities that make them realize. But I wouldn't say it's the biggest motivator, but I think this was one of a more common reason. Yeah.
And then when someone wants to, I guess, like make a change, what would you say is the most difficult or most common stumbling block that they fall into?
I think that sometimes when you're doing the right things or you're making a change, it can feel very scary too, because it's not your norm. And then when you feel scared, you start to think, hey, is this wrong? And I think then people may not be able to tide through that transition. They then revert back into their old lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah. So being able to sit through that, first 6 months to 1 year of transition is very important.
Right.
Do you have people who, nearing the end of their sentence, they actually get very anxious? Like they don't want to go out. They fear the life that's outside because they've been in for so long.
I think it's quite common. If you're in for a long sentence and you go out, the life will be so different. You've not had technology for maybe 5 years, right? And you may not be sure of what the world out there would be like.
Oh my God, some people, they come out, they never heard of AI before. Actually.
No, they are really that cut off, man.
They have
don't get news, all this,
tablets.
meh?
Yeah, they get news, but they can't use ChatGPT.
Technology,
Right, but they are aware of it based on the news and all that.
Yeah. So they do get anxious, and that's why we also start prepping them 6 months in advance. Let's talk about what are your plans, right? And it's not just one plan, but multiple plans. If one plan fails, we can go into another. And you're not alone. You have community partners to help you.
I think we've come to a good place to end the episode. Thank you very much, Marlene, for joining us today and being as candid as you can with us. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Guess how many people are in jail in Singapore?
50,000.
50,000 people are in jail in Singapore.
You think there's a national stadium full of prisoners in Singapore?
As of the end of 2024, 10,834.
Ah,
So she win lah. So
I'm
she
the
win.
furthest lah.
We like sore losers. So quiet.